Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Michael's Corner. I am your host, Michael. If you enjoy this type of content, please like, subscribe, and share this with other people who find this type of show interesting. It really helps this channel out. Also, with the holiday season rapidly approaching, please check out newimagestore.com for some great holiday sale items. Now, in today's show, it is called Infrastructure, the Skeleton of America. I will be talking about this country's infrastructure, which is vastly an underrepresented problem for this country. First of all, let's start with a definition. It means the basic equipment and structures such as roads and bridges that are needed for a country, region, or organization to function properly. With the new infrastructure bill being released, I feel that this is an excellent time to talk about what it means for this country. Now, did you know that infrastructure also includes the electrical power grid, gas line systems, and the water line systems? Now, this skeleton is what allows countries and nations like the U.S. to thrive. But how does the U.S. measure up? I will attempt to answer these questions sufficiently in this episode. Now, the very first part is a very grim picture of how we, a highly advanced country, are lagging behind everyone else as far as infrastructure is concerned. First of all, the population in our country has doubled since the 1960s, which was when most of our infrastructure was designed at that time. That's when it was designed. Now, because of this fact, our infrastructure has reached the end of its effective lifespan and is dangerously overstretched beyond capacity. Right now, it is estimated that our country has to spend $150 billion a year for the next 15 years to keep up with the country's infrastructure needs. Now, the sad part is that we are lagging behind developed and or developing nations. For example, I'll highlight a few of them. We're $5.1 billion behind China, we're $1.8 billion behind the United Kingdom, and even $1.3 billion behind Mexico. Now, this ranks us in the following ways as far as transportation goes. We are ranked only 30 in the top 50 airports in the world and only 18th in the world for broadband coverage. Another fact is that we invest less in transportation than other developed countries, including China. What seems to be the problem, you might ask? Well, a lot of this has to do with the way the U.S. funds and finances our infrastructure. Most European countries fund these improvements at the national level, and only 25% of this type of financing is underwritten by the United States. Now, this means that more of this burden rests in usually cash-strapped local governments. Now, another way is through direct grants to states from the Highway Trust Fund or the HTF. Now, this comes mostly from gas tax. There's also an indirect way that we do it, which is through TIFIA, or the Transportation Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, which provides low-interest loans and other credit assistance that local governments can use for their infrastructure needs. Unlike Europe and other countries that use a centralized way to build infrastructure, this decentralized way that the U.S. does is plagued with problems, particularly when it comes to oversight and making sure the right projects are being financed. Now, many experts agree that the United States will have to invest more money to keep up with the world. Some proposals, such as raising the gas tax, making Americans pay more taxes, or encourage the private sector to develop roadways or even creating toll roads to make up the shortfall. Now, I know I'm not alone in thinking that making Americans shoulder more of the infrastructure burden is not the right thing to do. Now, in the current administration, under President Biden, the U.S. is attempting to promote a $1 trillion bipartisan plan to address some of the infrastructure but the hundreds of billions of dollars may not be enough to catch up with the rest of the world. We do need to do something about the situation. And one idea that I have seen researchers talk about is a proposal running through Congress right now that has some support. This is the establishment of a government-owned national infrastructure bank that would provide cheap, long-term financing for infrastructure. One of the glaring advantages, besides the financing options, is the ability to monitor and approve projects that would better meet this country's needs in the future. This is the approach that I believe in for the reasons I have outlined previously. Now, of note, this type of organization already exists in Europe and has been successful. Now, that's my soapbox for today. I will see all of you in the next section. Hello, welcome back to the questions and answers section. I hope you found the last section entertaining and informative. This has been a very interesting subject for me to cover. I'm always learning new things, which I enjoy sharing with you guys. As for questions from you guys, I don't have any from you guys today, but I do have a question for this episode, and that one is, do you agree with my solution for our infrastructure problems? If not, what kind of solution would you suggest? Now on to my final thoughts for this episode. Welcome to the final thoughts. Given how advanced this country has become, it's surprising that our infrastructure lags so far behind the rest of the world. Under the current administration, we finally have a bipartisan agreement that hopes to address this problem. It is not enough. We have ignored this problem for many years, and now our infrastructure is so bad that it will take many years to bring it back to where it should be. This bipartisan agreement is a start, but we need to continue investing so that we don't fall behind anymore. To paraphrase what I have heard in a recent song, believe it or not, a house will stand if the bones are good. We need to make sure the bones are good in the United States if we hope to keep up with the rest of the world. Now, briefly, I discussed how the U.S. infrastructure has lagged behind the rest of the developing world. I also discussed the various methods that the country uses to solve these kind of infrastructure projects. And finally, what I think we should do about it. Now, I appreciate all of you tuning in to get my spin on things. Now, next week's episode is entitled COVID-19 Full Circle. Now, in this episode, I'll be discussing everything that has happened since the pandemic started. Now, on that note, I will close by saying what I always say to you guys, which is be safe, be careful, be open-minded, and I will see all of you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.